Hi everyone, my name is Ott Salmar and I'm head of sales at CloudVisor, and I'm hosting today's webinar on how to improve customer experience with Amazon CloudFront. And I'd like to say welcome to our guests, Istvan Pulei, head of EMEA Partnerships, Edge Services from AWS, who will tell us about Amazon CloudFront and answer any questions you may have related to it. So Istvan, just say hi if you would.
Hi, everyone.
I'll give some more time to him later on. And secondly, we have a team lead at CG Trader, our beloved client, but Eduardo Rebautzas, but he is coming in from Brazil, so it might take a bit of time when he pops in. So let's hope that he will still make it. And I'm actually very happy that we have them both here and all of you guys joining in today. So I hope you'll find it interesting and useful. And before we begin, let me just say a few words about CloudVisor and what we do for those who haven't heard of us before. Of course, Jan, my colleague from marketing, will be managing the slides and questions. So just so you know, I'll say sometimes next slide, so he will know what to do. CloudVisor, we are an advanced tier AWS partner operating in the Baltics and Nordics, and we work closely together with them to provide support to current and new AWS users. And it's actually important to mention that majority of our clients are startups. Therefore, we're more familiar with the ins and outs of building a startup in terms of the infrastructure side. So we can help you build it, help you scale it, and do all of that efficiently. Next slide. But today, obviously, we have a separate topic, which is AWS CloudFront and content delivery network. So here is the quick overview before I give it over to Istvan of the benefits that come with it. First of all, no data transfer out fees, basically meaning using AWS with any other CDN than Amazon CloudFront, you need to pay extra money to transfer your data out of AWS. Secondly, there's the hassle-free integration. CloudFront easily integrates with other AWS services, which allow you to save the time on integrating different systems. Top-notch security, obviously, a very important part in any AWS service, and the same goes for AWS CloudFront. And all your CloudFront distributions are defended by default against the most frequent attacks. And last but not least, friendly pricing. And since we are an advanced tier partner, we can actually offer you at least 50% discount on the list price of the CloudFront service. And it can go up depending on the traffic you have. And also we can do a free migration project for you if you're using some other system today. Next slide. All right, so let's move forward. Here's the agenda. And as you can see, Istvan will be our first speaker, but before I pass the screen to him, I want to mention two things regarding the workflow of today's event. Your questions are welcome, but please submit them in the QA section, meaning later on, or just type them in the chat when you get the question, and we will try to go through them all during the Q&A part of the webinar. And secondly, as you all saw already, the event is being recorded, and we'll share the recording with everyone tomorrow, so you have all the information at your fingertips if you need that. So that's it from my side. Istvan, you ready to take over?
Yes, thank you very much, Ott. Helen, thanks everyone for tuning in today. Thanks for the invitation. First, I would like to show some technical skills and share my screen. I hope I managed it now. So can you just please confirm? Excellent. So I want to tell you about AWS Edge Services and why we think they are super important for everyone who has external facing applications and workloads. Before I do that, I want to start from a little further and just to give you a big picture, because we will be talking a lot about the CDN and why this is super important. This is close to my heart. This is my portfolio, but I want to highlight one of the most important things about our CDN compared to any other solution. AWS and CloudFront is not just a CDN. This is one of the biggest powers of this service. It's integrated on a platform of 175 other services. So let me start with Amazon and why many customers are choosing AWS on this market. Since 11 years, as you can see here on the chart, we are very proud of that. We are leading the pack in this Gartner Magic Quadrant for cloud infrastructure and platform services, which means that both in terms of vision as well as in execution, we are ahead of our competitors. And we believe this is mainly due to the breadth and depth of our portfolio, but there are many other factors, and I want to show you a couple of numbers just to back it up. First of all, our beloved leader, who was historically the one and only leader of AWS, Andy Jassy, now took over from Jeff Bezos, who started to shoot himself out to outer space. So Andy Jassy used to say that there is no compression algorithm for experience, and this is very true because we believe that there are some things you just can't learn unless you go through certain milestones, you reach certain size, and we have. We are on this market since 2006. Since 15 years, we are building this huge platform, and we had a chance to go through those milestones and reach the economies of scales and fail many times and learn from those and build this where we are. So, we have 81 availability zones as of today. We offer, I think it's more like 180 services by now. I stopped counting now. I just refresh this every 3 months, but it's growing. We have over 230 security features, which is also super important. I think Art, you also mentioned that security is job zero, how we call it at AWS. So this is super important. We start everything with security. But also I want to highlight that in addition to our technology and what we built, we want to be the most customer obsessed company on the globe, not just Amazon in general, but AWS particularly. So if customers say, hey, I want to use any other technology, not just the AWS technology, then we will take care of this. And a good example is Kubernetes. 84% of all the cloud-based, cloud-running Kubernetes are running on AWS. And I don't want to bore you with all the numbers. Cost saving is probably one of the top 3 reasons for you guys to move to the cloud and to start using a CDN, for example. This is also core to our development and innovation. So when we manage to reach another level of economies of scale or develop some new technologies, we want to share the cost saving from that. And we have done this 107 times since we started, and we will continue to do that. And last but not least, I want to talk about our ecosystem, our community, as I like to call them, including folks like CloudVisor. Without this rich community of millions of customers and tens of thousands of really cool partners, we couldn't be where we are. And this is my bias because I work in the partner organization, but I think this is one of the key advantages of AWS over anyone else, that we have partners who can help our customers achieve what they wanted, which we couldn't necessarily do on every market. So thank you very much for CloudVisor for doing that. So let's jump right into that. What are edge services and how do they help you? So I like to explain this as 3 pillars, and edge services are, we call many things edge services even inside AWS, but strictly what we call AWS edge services start with our delivery platform, Edge Delivery, which is our CDN, CloudFront, and there is another product called Global Accelerator, which is a different technology, a little lesser known. I'm not going to talk about this today, but I can answer questions offline. So Edge Delivery is the first pillar. Second one is Edge Delivery. We have a quite rich portfolio of perimeter protection solutions right now that will help you to mitigate volumetric and application-specific attacks, and I'll talk about this in a minute. And the third pillar that I think is super important is Edge Compute. And these are not separate services. These come as features of CloudFront, our CDN, but they help to make the overall user experience and the content provider experience much, much better. We also work very closely with our DNS team, and the DNS product is often considered part of this, but that's a fairly straightforward product I'm not going to cover today. So I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar with what a CDN does, but I wanted to do this little demo or little animation to explain how it works, because it also helps me to explain why it has so many benefits for overall your business, right? So here on the left side, you have a user who is requesting a piece of content, and on the right-hand side, I indicated the content origin or the content application. Now, in this case, I indicated that this is in AWS, but it can be anywhere else. It can be on-prem, it can be on another DC. So you send in a request, right? And it goes to many, many different networks. We don't know how, BGP knows, or even they don't know, right? So it goes in, and the server will send back a response, and it can go through, again, a totally different path. So when this happens, every hop in the network will introduce a latency, a performance degradation. And every hop and every point where we need to interact between two of those networks or any gear, it will open up a risk surface. So it will also increase the exposure to threats. Another aspect which we don't talk enough about is that if you don't use a CDN, you just use the origin, even if you are in the cloud, what happens is that you have to scale your origin architecture to the totality of the potential load. So if you expect, I don't know, 10,000 concurrent users at the peak, you have to build your infrastructure to handle that. So you have to have servers or instances, network gear, IP connectivity, you need people who manage that. So this is a heavy burden, and you might be using that for 10 minutes of a day or 1 day out of a month, and you still have to maintain that. So, and if you have hardware, if you are on-prem, every 3 years, you have to buy again and renew the software licenses, et cetera, et cetera. So this is not ideal. Overall, the result is not a good experience for the end user nor for the content publisher. Slow delivery, no security, high cost, and potential business loss. So enter the CDN. What a CDN does is it will fetch the original copy of the content from the origin, and it will serve it out of a cache very close to the end user. Now, the first impact of using a CDN is that the request, the URL is directed to an IP address of the CDN instead of the origin. It has two major impacts to start with. Number one is, because of the requests are now going back to the origin, only the CDN will from time to time. You can scale down the origin the moment you start to use a CDN. You don't have to scale your origin infrastructure anymore to the full usage. You can actually scale it back down all the way to like a very minimal architecture. Secondly, your origin is going to become practically invisible if you configure it right, and only the CDN will have access to it and have visibility of your origin. And all the outside world is going to just see the CDN and an IP address of the CDN. So the security and the performance is imminently going to be much, much better. So the CDN, because of the proximity of the caches to the end user, is going to improve the performance of any type of content, be it static, dynamic, or streaming. So we took care of performance, and I already talked about the security posture and how the shielding mechanism of the CDN helps. Now, in addition to that, we have deployed additional technology at those edge POPs, like our DDoS mitigation, our web application firewall, our bot mitigation products, etc., that will further help you to protect against any kind of cyber attack. So after performance, we took care of security, right? And then the last piece of the puzzle is adding the intelligence piece. This is edge compute, and with the help of our edge compute modules, Lambda at Edge or CloudFront functions, you can achieve a number of really cool and interesting behaviors and scenarios. For example, what it's normally used for is like authentication, content targeting, image resizing on the fly, content personalization overall, or smart content delivery is overall an idea. So you can target the content by geography, by end user device, but you can go a step further and you can even start using a recommendation engine. If you want to differentiate yourself from your competitors, you can do that as well. But these modules also help to tighten the security. You can enforce additional security headers, reach out and start using an external WAF or external bot mitigation platform. So edge compute, in addition to just a header manipulation, which is the basic HTTP rules function, you can do a lot of very interesting things that will actually give you the edge over your competitors when it comes to content delivery, which will be important for your online business. The overall result is low latency, better security posture, and more intelligent workflow, which overall results in a better user experience and hopefully in business advantages. I talked about that earlier. You can use this technology not only if your origin is in the cloud, you can use it also if your origin is on-prem or in another hosting platform. So in a hybrid method. So this is why many companies who are still on-prem and hesitate between, okay, shall I make this move, shall I not? This is one of the easiest service to start with because you don't have to move anything. You just change your DNS record and you will start using the CDN and you're halfway over to the cloud already, which is super important because migrating over your entire infrastructure is a headache, right? It's not an easy task. A lot of people spend a lot of time and a lot of money on doing this. So by starting with CloudFront and Edge Services, you establish this, you take care of the scaling mechanism, the performance, the security aspects, and under the hood of this comfortable and cozy environment, you can start moving other workloads and start to optimize your infrastructure, even in a hybrid or on-prem setup. So I talked about security, and I want to go further into explaining what types of perimeter protection we offer and what is it that this portfolio addresses. Obviously, I told you about how we have 230 plus security features on the platform that includes like identity and access management and all kinds of things, but particularly perimeter protection addresses mainly this is the Aussie model here, and I'm showing you how where volumetric attacks happen. So there are these ICMP floods on the network layer and scene and act floods on transport layer, and then on the application layer, we also see volumetric types of attacks like HTTP floods, which our platform will mitigate and take care of because of the sheer size of the technology that we use for our own network already. The second type, and actually these two come in many more often than not hand in hand. So someone will launch a volumetric HTTP flood, and while doing that, they will look for an application vulnerability. And once they found it, then they will launch an app exploit attack, right? It can be an SQL injection or cross-site scripting or any other type of credential stuffing, whatever. First, they under the volumetric, they will look for a vulnerability, and then they will try to exploit that. That's why it's super important to apply these different techniques and technologies to mitigate different types of attacks. And this is what the Edge platform does. So the last piece of this puzzle is bots, right? I can't call it bot protection. We call it bot control because there are so many different bots. There are good bots, and there are bots that we rely on that we have to use. Like there are chat bots and bots that scrape your site and get information that was intended for that. But there are many bad ones, and in our practice, we see sites that have 50% of the traffic of which are bots, and in some extreme cases, it actually goes up to 90%. Before we start looking at this and analyze the logs and look at who is who and what are they doing on the site, this is the size and the extent of bot traffic today. So this became actually one of the most important things that we need to manage and take care of. I don't necessarily filter everything, but you need to do something with that. So these are the layers and the types of attacks. And like I said, our own SOC recommends to apply what we call a layered security approach where you use these different techniques and technologies at the right point in the workflow. And this is again where partners like CloudVisor can be very helpful, because they can do an audit for you and tell you where to apply Shield, where to apply a WAF, what kind of rules you need, maybe do spin up a honeypot using Lambda, or call out to a third-party bot mitigation if our own baseline bot mitigation is not enough. So you have to be smart about how you piece this together, and this is why professional services and partners, expert partners, are becoming very important. So our portfolio of security is obviously our Shield product, which is taking care of the volumetric side of the attacks. Then we have our WAF engine. Actually, Web Application Firewall has two main components. One is the engine itself, which will apply the logic. And then there are the rules, right? And we have our own AWS managed WAF rules that are available. You can just click and enable, or put them in count mode or protect mode. Which is very cozy and easy to use. But you can also write your own rules. That's still available. But if you have been using other vendors' rules and you feel more comfortable keeping those, you can do that too, because AWS has the largest marketplace for SaaS and software solutions that are built and made available on AWS. So most, if not all, of our security partners and friends and competitors and everyone, by the way, makes their services available so that you can just plug and play. Plug that into our WAF engine and use that. Or if you want to use this, that's also available on the marketplace. So marketplace is a very important part in our security offering. And we have a bigger bundle. Shield Advanced is not a separate service, it's actually a bundle. If you have a large, complex web application environment where you have many assets, multiple distributions, you have to apply many different WAF rules, and you have to use Firewall Manager, and this is a complex task. Then it is worth for you to sign up for Shield Advanced and actually ask your partner to help you with that, because you get an unlimited number of WAF rules, you get cost protection, you get more visibility, you get these global threat environment dashboards that show you what's going on in terms of threats on the AWS network, and you have access to our SOC. Now, these are the black belt ninjas who protect our very own web properties like Amazon.com or Prime Video or Fresh and all of these. So if you subscribe to this product, you will be able to actually work with those engineers in case you have any kind of attack. So this is for me, the most important part of that product. So I think, Art, you mentioned this earlier. I want to just highlight one important aspect of using a CDN. So I talked about how you can use this with an on-prem or hybrid environment as well, but particularly if your origin is already in the cloud, there is no good reason to not use CloudFront, because if the content is there, and you use the public internet, what you buy, what we give you is our standard internet access product that we call Data Transfer App. Now, this is neither cheap nor very performing, right? It's just an internet access product. No performance gains, no security advantages, and it's not cheap. So many of the customers who do this actually realize that this is no bueno, and they go ahead, they probably don't know about CloudFront, so they go ahead and start working with an external CDN. Now, what happens then is that the content is still with us, right? And they have to send the traffic out to the third-party CDN, what we call cache fill. You have to fill the caches of those other CDNs, and that's why we still have to charge you for some DTO costs, because that's about 10 up to 50% in some cases. It depends on the cache ratio and the type of traffic, but it's still a cost. And then the third-party CDN is going to charge you for all of the CDN traffic. So the ideal setup is that if your content is already on AWS, why not use the built-in CDN, which is CloudFront? We can waive the cost between the origin and our CDN because we use our very own network. And all you do is you pay just for the CDN itself which in many cases is actually cheaper than others. But more importantly, there is no DTO cost for cache fill. I see you'd like to ask a question, Ott.
Yes. So there was one Q&A question exactly about that, a bit backwards, like 10 minutes ago, you had a graph, but you didn't have Cloudflare on it. It's fine, you don't have to, but the question was like how CloudFront is better than Cloudflare in terms of CDN functionality. And I just wanted to jump in to basically say that this slide is the answer to any other solution, kind of.
Right. So in general, this is not my job to talk about other CDNs. What we see, and it's not just for Cloudflare, a couple of main differentiating factors. Number one is that Cloudflare in Akamai and Fastly, just to not differentiate, not single them out, they are just CDNs. The number one differentiator. Whatever they do, however good they are just CDNs. We have, if you work with us, you will have access to 175 additional services, which will, at the end of the day, make the difference. Secondly, in terms of security, no other platform, and particularly not the one you mentioned, comes anywhere close. This has an impact on availability, reliability, as well as overall security. Sometimes they are considered cheap, but they way of achieving that cost level is because they compromise on other pieces of technology. And this is why we see outages. This is why we see security issues with that. So we see customers coming over basically every day. And these are the main reasons why we see that. So if you are asking how this is different or better, then first of all, we are not just a CDN. Secondly, there is DTO. Third, there is reliability and availability, and fourth, there is security, which these are the four I would mention.
Thank you.
Now, to wrap it up, why I think CDN is an absolute must if you have externally exposed applications is here. So you will build something really cool, right? It's either a piece of content or a service or an application, some kind of intelligence, but this is your most precious part of your business. Now, even if you build it on a really cool cloud workflow and workloads, and it's super efficient, if this edge connector that connects your environment with the outside world, which is, by the way, your audience, if that doesn't work well, then it's screwed. There is no performance, there is no security, there is no user experience. So more often than not, there will be brand damage. And same goes to if you pick a less favorable CDN setup and solution, for example. If you have to proxy the traffic out to a third-party CDN, that's already less performing and less secure, etc. So the four main areas that I wanted to walk you through this little animation earlier were performance, security, efficiency, and cost. And this is what Edge Services will give you and delivery. We have a global platform. Just a little anecdote. When I joined a little over 2 years ago, we had, I think, about 100 POPs. But this was about the time when Amazon and AWS realized what I just talked about, that no matter how cool the cloud workloads work, if the edge doesn't perform as well, then you ruined it. So they started to, and we started to pour money into that. And today we have 280 plus POPs on basically practically unimaginable amount of capacity. And we added a myriad of additional security features, for example, and functionality to CloudFront and our CDN, because we think this is super important. And that's not gonna stop. I just saw yesterday our capacity planning, and double-digit number of additional POPs are going to be added over the next couple of months, which is a eye-watering speed of development. So we take this seriously, and if you don't see a dot where you think there should be one, you can be sure there will be one very soon. Now, I think I mentioned this, that everyone who has an external facing application should be considering and using edge services, I wanted to show you a couple of verticals and couple of use cases without going into details, right? So there are some pretty obvious ones. Media, everybody's familiar with it. If you watch anything OTT or on an application, not on linear at home, but actually, to be honest, I even watch linear at home over OTT, so that's not a good case. But media is probably the largest bit pusher, one of the largest bit pushers of our times, next to software downloads, and they are a power user. So that's obvious. But if you think about it, especially unfortunately because of COVID, everything else and everyone moved most of their business and most of the most valuable side of their business over to the internet. Now, retail, you will understand. Education, the private side of education was already online. Now, during COVID, I know about at least 6 or 7 different public education projects that we had to solve over a couple of weeks and couple of months to help spin it up and move it onto edge services. So that's moving there. But public services is also a good example. So as you can imagine, during lockdowns in different countries, people weren't able to go and take care of the citizenship issues, but life doesn't stop. So they had to. So we had to help them build these services, and edge services is in the focus of all of these applications that have an external facing part. You have to communicate with the audience, etc. So finance is not very different from travel, for example. Just the security requirements are different. Gaming and ad tech are super important too. So if you work in any of these verticals, then please do consider using a CDN. Do consider working with AWS, and if you need help, please use CloudWiser. And actually, this is where I will stop. I know I talk a lot, but if you have questions, please pop them in the chat or speak up at the end in the Q&A. Back to you.
Thank you, Istvan, for this very comprehensive and in-depth knowledge of CloudFront. And not only all of the edge services as well. So we were supposed to have Eduardo here from Brazil, one of our clients, to share some insights from the client side, but maybe he missed the plane or something happened, so we don't have him here. So I did have a couple of questions that came to me when you were presenting, just maybe I want to revisit them. So if you don't mind, Istvan, I'd ask you a few questions. And then if anybody has other questions, just shoot them in the Q&A. But other than that, right now, the official part, so to speak, is done. So Istvan, from your experience, like how much impact a good CDN solution can have on the client's like business performance side? I know you covered it in the presentation, but more in lines of what success stories have you seen? Kind of like it was really bad, now it's great, so to speak.
Well, there are many different aspects of companies, online businesses that they want to address, right? So some, I can talk to you about some very particular use cases I've seen. Like food delivery services, and that's one. They weren't able to efficiently manage the seasonal fluctuation, for example, of demand without a CDN. So not only were they experiencing a high cost, but also they weren't able to manage the auto scaling that they experienced even within a day and then between days, and particularly during COVID, when restaurants closed down in one country, in another country they went online, and there were not enough restaurants or not enough riders, or demand and supply was changing very rapidly. So in this particular case, the CDN helped to take care of the auto scaling up and down, as well as making it very easy to cover multiple different markets seamlessly without having to replicate the infrastructure or plan additional capacity, because the CDN is built in a way that it automatically takes care of all these issues. So reach, availability, coverage, and scaling are very important when it comes to business continuity and making sure that your end customers have the same user experience across the board, no matter when and where and how they would like to access the service. Cost is another very important aspect.
That was actually my next question about what you didn't touch on. So maybe you can just kind of like move on to the next question, because I see we have two very provocative questions in the Q&A. So let's do this part first and then go to those questions. So yeah, about the pricing. How does the pricing structure working on CloudFront?
So CDN has an on-demand pricing on CloudFront that is available and publicly shown on our website. It's charged by gigabyte out, so it's volume going out to the end users is what we count, and we charge $1 per gigabyte fee. Obviously, our on-demand pricing on the website is for those who just started their business and don't have many terabytes and petabytes of volume. If they do, they can come to us, and they can particularly go to CloudVisor, and you guys can help because we have a very robust discount program available for CloudFront users, which can help to optimize their cost. CDN itself is already more cost efficient than just paying for internet access on-prem or even in the cloud. Like I said, if you're not using, you pay for DTO, and DTO is not an ideal service. But particularly if you start to push larger amount of volumes, you can come to us and we can work out a discount that works much better and helps you save cost and helps you save request fees, for example. Not to mention that you only pay for the actual volume that you push out, so it's not a bandwidth deal.
Great, thanks. Great to have somebody who can, answer like that to all the questions. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the Q&A part. The easiest question from Saul was, can we get a copy of the presentation with the recording, please? So the answer is yes, you'll get it tomorrow, all the presentation and the recording, so you can access it, no worries. Now let's go from the top. So I'm gonna read it to you, so you can take it from there. We talked about CloudFront competitors and compared CloudFront to them. So here is the uncomfortable question. Can you please comment why Amazon uses CloudFront in conjunction with Fastly? Why isn't CloudFront enough?
I need a little help on this. I don't know what, I think I know what the question refers to. Is this referring to Amazon.com or Prime Video? I guess it does, right?
I don't know.
So there is no service of that size that uses a single vendor technology or a strategy. The sheer size of volume and usage is just common sense that you cannot rely on one single point of failure. Imagine we didn't have an outage in the memorable past. I don't know any, but we can. And our leaders used to say that what can break will eventually break. So our people at Prime and Amazon.com know this very well, and they would never rely on one single source. We have to fight, I think it's a monthly or quarterly cycle when Prime and Amazon.com will ask for pricing and check performance continuously and compare other CDNs. So it's not a given that we are even just one of the vendors. What makes us super proud is that currently, I don't know how public this is, but I'm gonna say it anyway, we carry over 60% of the traffic, right? It wasn't always like this. Before I joined Amazon, I worked for another CDN, and for many years that I spent in this industry, we looked down at CloudFront and we said, yeah, well, AWS is cool, but the CDN kind of sucks because it's just a byproduct of the network and how. But then when Amazon realized how important it is and started to pour money into it, this is when it started to dramatically improve the quality, the performance, and the feature richness of the platform. And I think back then, even my previous company, we had a higher share of Amazon.com and Prime than CloudFront did. Now this totally changed. We won back most of this business with performance and quality in obviously pricing, etc. So at that size, and even actually in your region, in the Nordics and Baltics, large broadcasters, for example, never use a single CDN, or it's very rare. So after a certain size, you will always use a multi-vendor strategy. But it makes us very proud that that we carry most of Amazon's our own traffic.
That's a great answer. And the last question, if nobody writes any new ones, so quoting, I think by default, the CloudFront edge location content is cached for 24 hours. And if you want to refresh it, you have to pay. Am I right? Also, is AWS looking to improve this caching window or reduce costs on refreshing the cache content?
I don't know. We have a cap on this. We also honor header settings. So this time to leave and external max age can be set in the header. I don't think we have a 24-hour limit on caching its popularity. So our infrastructure strategy is that we build what we call super pop. So we build super large cache footprint everywhere where we can, which is actually a difference between us and some of the older legacy CDNs who just put a couple of pizza boxes in networks because they wanted to be very close, which was a good choice 15 years ago. Now it's not much. But we build very large cache footprints, which allows us to keep popular content as long as it is popular. So we are not going to, I don't know about any setting that would say if your content will have to leave in 24 hours if it's not used. We also have a couple other features that help you improve the cache ratio. We can use, there is a feature that is called prefetching, which is probably not visible in the console, but we can help with CloudWiser to set this up for you, which allows you to not only cache the popular content, but prefetch the following pieces of content if that's important for you to have those. We have another feature called Origin Shield that helps you to proactively use a mid-tier layer based on our infrastructure that will help you to further cache and extend this cache time to live on a mid-tier, and then the edge infrastructure can go back only to that. But again, I don't think there is a 24-hour limitation or automation that will kick out your content if it's not requested in the meantime.
All right, great. Thanks for the answer. I hope it was sufficient for the asker, but I don't see any follow-up questions. So I'm assuming they're all answered and everybody understands everything about everything now. Okay, but anyway, Istvan, thank you very much for your insight and your time with us. Oh, we have one more in the Q&A. So let's see. Could you walk me through how you specialize your services for startups? I assume that's a question for CloudWiser, and let me just briefly cover it. So because of our history, and we have only been working with startups, so we know the problems that they're facing more than we do with enterprise or SME customers. So that's why like the specialization comes from practice, and also working together with the startup community people within the region we work in. We know what special considerations will be provided for startups in the region through either VC funds, accelerators, programs, and so on. But obviously, it depends with each startup what their unique situation is and what they would like us to do. So whether it's migration projects or credits for to use services or something totally different, we can basically go and dig deeper into your specific case. So Saul, if you want to know more, just let's have a short call and then talk about your specific part. But yeah, coming back to the webinar again, Istvan, thank you for the Q&A. Thank you for the presentation. So it was all you. I'm sad that we didn't get to have a client here to tell everybody how great we are, but I believe we managed quite well. So, and thank you all the participants as well. But I'm going to ask to Jan to put on the next slide. So we'll just sum it up all again to remind everybody, and then we'll leave it at that. So by switching to AWS native CDN, you can save money on the transfer out fees, which Istvan quite nicely had illustrated as well. And then you can integrate all your AWS services easier and save time, and obviously increase the security of your content delivery network. And the most important, you can get at least 50% off the official CloudFront pricing, plus a free migration if you decide to partner with CloudVisor. And as Istvan also said about the pricing, it always depends on the amount of traffic and the number of requests. So it's case by case. And next slide, please. There we go. So we reached the end. So thank you, everybody. And if you have any questions, any topics you want to discuss, for example, like Saul did with a specific question about CloudVisors, either email me or fill a contact form on our website to get in touch with us at cloudvisor.eu. And I think it looks like it's a wrap for today's event. I'm glad we stayed under the 1 hour that was scheduled, so that was good. And I'd like to thank Istvan again as our guest and sharing all the knowledge that you have about CloudFront. And then thanks to everyone for being with us today. And if you have any questions, thoughts, or anything, just feel free to reach out, and looking forward to seeing you in other CloudVisor events. So until next time, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Istvan.